As natural wood species go, redwood is in a class of its own. A sustainable alternative to tropical hardwoods, redwood is grown and harvested to the highest environmental standards in the world. Named for the dark red heartwood at the center of the tree, redwood imparts natural beauty, warmth, and durability to interior and exterior building applications, including decking, fencing, paneling, siding, exposed beams and timbers, pergolas, and other shade structures. To learn more about redwood from Humboldt Sawmill, please visit getredwood.com. Chris writes with a great mystery. He says, "To the Fine Humidity and Air Sealing Podcast, I have a mystery. I've been working on better air sealing, insulating, and generally updating my 1950 house in Cincinnati. I've noticed that my ball caps stored above an HVAC vent stay very damp to the touch. The cotton ones, that is, not the synthetic ones. Why would that be? I keep the indoor temperature 73 to 75 this time of year with a goal of 55% humidity, but the system averages 65%. This is on an interior wall. The heat pump system was completely replaced this time last year, about when I moved in, and the old system went out. It seems to keep up with the hot summer just fine, although the balance is off in one room, not the room with the ball caps, however. I'm in climate zone 4, barely. It's been a hot, humid summer. I have dense pack insulation in the walls, although I'm not sure it's doing much good with the state of the air sealing. The attic has 5.5 inches of open cell foam in the eaves, and it has a full, unfinished basement with closed cell foam in the bandboard. The furnace has octo trunks off of it, with the room in question about 6 feet from the main unit. Most vents are within 8 to 10 feet. It's a very small house. The thermostat is in the hallway just outside the room in question. The single return is just beyond that. I added a high wall return to the floor return there as well. Thanks for all you do, Chris of the Damp Forehead." Chris, this is indeed a great mystery. I love a mystery. So he has a pair of ball caps that we see in the photograph above a floor register. Some are damp, the cotton ones. Others are dry. So what do you think's going on here, Grant?
So I think it's got to be something with that registers making the material cold enough to condense moisture out of the air. Now, is that moisture coming from inside, or is it more likely that when he opens the door, I'm guessing that's an exterior door sitting there, is the hot, humid air coming in, it's finding its first condensing surface, which is those caps. I don't have an answer for why it's the cotton ones and not the synthetic ones. That's interesting to me.
Ian, your thoughts on this?
If you're a fan of gory fiction, as I was back in the day, and you remember the movie American Psycho, and you remember what the protagonist's closet looked like, all of his cotton Oxford shirts were spaced 1 inch apart so that air could move around the shirts, because if you did not have that in a closet situation adjacent to your showering murder lair where his closet was, you would end up with damp cotton shirts. And I think that's what he's got going on here. He doesn't have enough air circulation. 65%'s too high. Like that's a humidity battle I fight constantly here with the amount of plants that we have in the house, and then also being in the basement. That's just too high. Anything that's a pure cotton fabric is going to get damp.
It gives me a chance to talk about the advantages of dense pack cellulose and hygric redistribution. These materials, like cotton, can absorb humidity, right? And yep. And they don't dry as readily as something like fiberglass insulation or mineral wool, which is hydrophobic, I believe is the right word. So I think it has everything to do with it being cold and not drying. What do you think?
I would think some air movement and keeping that humidity, more at that 50%. You have to think too, he's got a small house and his single thermostat is it's in one place. You're not taking humidity and temperature readings from all areas of the house. So you're not getting true readings. You might have different temperature and humidity profiles in different corners of the house. And as you guys pointed out, these hats are hanging right by a door.
I think the other thing that's going on here too is the delivery temperature of the air coming from the air handler in the basement. It's 6 feet away. This is going to be the coldest air leaving the furnace registers. The ones that are 8 or 10 feet away are going to be slightly warmer. We need a way to measure the dew point, right? Isn't the key to knowing if these hats are condensing surfaces to figure out the dew point? Am I right in this?
Yeah. You need to know what the dew point of the air mass is, for sure.
How do we do that, Grant? What's the best way?
Now I'm going back to I'm thinking about the psychometric chart here for a second. So what? It's a relation of the relative humidity and the temperature and I believe it's wet bulb temperature, I want to say, should give you on the like you can read the psychometric chart to determine what the dew point of that air mass is, I believe. But it's early in the morning, so don't quote me on that.
And the podcast is always willing to go into uncharted territory with our knowledge. So I agree. I think it has everything to do with wet bulb temperature. I think the challenge is figuring that out inside a house. If you can look at weather forecasts or reporting websites of local weather and learn the dew point or even the wet bulb temperature, but you need to do this inside your house. And it has to do with the rate of evaporation is one of the things that affects that, and that's hard to measure. And back in the old days, you used to use a sling psychrometer, which when I was in 8th grade, life science class meant an alcohol thermometer on a rawhide string that you would wet a little piece of felt, I think it was, on the bulb of the thermometer and then spin this thing around over your head to get the wet bulb temperature, which sounds fun indoors, right? What could go wrong?
Move your hats. Problem solved.
I think there are more self-contained units, and I've seen on Amazon that there are electronic devices to measure wet bulb temperature, but I've never used one and don't know how they work. I'm hoping listeners have thoughts on this. I was wondering how long to wait to see if you guys were going to say anything.
I've got nothing on dew point.
I'm pulling up the psychometric chart quick to see if I was right. I feel it's too early in the morning to think. You should ask me that later this afternoon.
Join us this September 18th and 19th at the beautiful Endicott College campus in Beverly, Massachusetts for the Fine Homebuilding Summit, where the best minds in residential design and construction come together. This premier 2-day event is all about elevating the way we design, build, and run successful, inspiring construction businesses. You'll hear from some of the most respected leaders in the industry as they share insights on the future of home building. You'll experience engaging sessions, interactive roundtable discussions, supplier exhibits, and hands-on networking. We'll also be recording a Fine Homebuilding Podcast live from the summit floor. Head over to summit.finehomebuilding.com to register today. Use the promo code FHB Podcast for $50 off the 2-day all-access ticket. Can't wait to see you there. I'm curious how folks figure this out, because it's important to assemblies, right? You need to make sure the areas around windows stay above the dew point, especially
it is for sure. And I think the thing to remember in especially interior design, HVAC is, like to Ian's point, you're high on your relative humidity inside right now at 55 to 65%. So, unless you keep the air so cold in your house that, it's like a freezer inside at 50% humidity, you'll find it hard to reach temperature at which you reach the dew point. Just because of how little humidity is in the air. But when you're running with high humidities, your dew points get higher fast.
Chris's cooling system is sized for very hot, humid conditions in Cincinnati. And if you're unfamiliar, it's across the Ohio River from Louisville, Kentucky. It's hot and humid in the summer. And he needs better latent load control, and his system is sized for the sensible load, the amount of cooling. And I'm guessing it doesn't run long enough to really get the humidity down. I'm guessing you find the same thing, Ian. If you try and control humidity, it gets freezing in there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there was one podcast listener who admonished me for not putting in a whole house dehumidifier, and I, in an episode long ago, kind of went, I'll be fine, and I am not fine. I have a lot more humidity in this house than I want to have, and it's a bit of a battle. And one of the projects that I may or may not take on this winter is a rebuild of my ventilation system so that I can include some kind of whole house dehumidifier. Haven't quite decided if I'm going to pull the trigger on that one yet, but it's on the board as a possible project.
What do you think, Grant?
Yes, I think whole house dehumidification is a good thing. It gives you more control. To Ian's point, relying on your HVACs to do your dehumidification doesn't work particularly well.
It works for a big chunk of the year just fine, but that little narrow slice of the year where you really need it to work well for you, in my experience, it does not.
The houses we're building, and I would say your house is exceptional in this regard, Ian, is they have so little load. The systems just don't run, right? It's
correct.
What we needed was something to make housing more expensive, was centralized dehumidification. I was thinking, right?
Yeah. Add cost. Just keep layering on cost and complexity. Full house dehumidification, crazy waterproofing
in your house. I mean, that ship has sailed.
That ship has sailed, so it does limit my options. And I've been digging back into Allison Bale's book, A House Needs to Breathe or Does It? And he has some like, well, if this is what you got, you can get away with doing this. It's not going to be pretty. And he's got a few setups in there that could work with the HRV ductwork that I do already have. So I may go that route.
Your house is little. My guess is you don't need a lot of dehumidification, but
see I have a 1,300 square foot footprint of the house, right, or 1,350. But the problem, and this was one of the things that HVAC tech pointed out, the cubic footage of the great room is so large that it actually creates a much bigger mass of air than a normal 8-foot ceiling room would give you. Our walls are 11 feet tall, and the peak is 18 feet and change across a room that's 42 feet long. So that's a lot of cubic footage of air to condition.
And it's connected to the much smaller spaces largely, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Grant, it sounds like we need to have a fine home building feature on a, HVAC system with, forethought on humidity control. It's getting to that point, right?
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think it's one of those things, and especially, we build tighter houses with less load. I think your mechanicals become, to some extent, they become less important because they're smaller, but to the other extent, they become a lot more important because you have to have control to build that tight of a house.
This is maybe too deep of a question for this late in the show, but I think part of what sold me on green high performance building was the idea of having a simplified, less expensive HVAC system. And I'm finding that that's not really the case. So I think that that's something I would like to see you incorporate into that article that you just volunteered to write, Grant.
Well, Brian didn't show up this morning, so he's doing it.
Oh, he's it?
That's right.